Hi, I'm Mike Cherniffsky, and you're listening to This Podcast is Uncalled For. So welcome once again to This Podcast is Uncalled For. Season 7. Hard to believe, but we're here. We took a little hiatus at the end of Season 6. Got a lot of stuff happened. And I'm going to just catch you up to speed on some of the goings on. Aside from starting work again and all that's with the clubs and stuff, a few events have happened. One, something family related, involving my brother. That I'm not going to go into the details out of respect for his privacy, but I'll just say that I've had to make multiple trips to the hospital to get him to and from his various appointments. And this is a great time to give a shout out to the Harvest Kitchen at they're branded Advent Care Shiny Mission, but screw it, I'm going to call it Shiny Mission Med anyway. Alright. So credit to them for having good food and fair, very reasonably priced. I mean, it's cheaper to eat in that hospital cafeteria than it is at McDonald's. All right. So that's number one. Number two, just being lazy on account of starting up work again and having to help out with my brother. We haven't been able to do a whole lot of scheduling for podcasts until just now. So apologies for that. And one of the contributing factors, I'll just come out and say one of the contributing factors to this hiatus, you may have heard about it, but there were a couple of strikes in the entertainment industry. WGA, the Writers Guild of America, went on strike first, and at the time I'm recording this, they have, in fact, settled. And shortly after that, SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild, combined with the American Federation for Television and Radio Artists, which is the actors union, they went on strike. And full disclosure, a few of our guests have been members of SAG-AFTRA. So out of respect, I could not ask them to cross a picket line, even though podcasts are exempt from the strike, unless we're talking about struck works, as they would call it. This season I'm going to try my best to not have so many actors on, just in case they decide to. I don't know. Full disclosure, I'm a member of neither SAG-AFTRA nor the WGA. So, or any other union for that matter. So get that out of the way. And the last thing we need to discuss is we're going to have new co-hosts for this season. Braden decided to leave, and cited as his reason for leaving my love of sports. Well, you're coming on a podcast that's life exploration. You're going to talk about sports, especially since the host in question happens to be a big sports fan. But I do want to give a quick thank you to Braden for the work he did contribute to the podcast, and you are always welcome back. As long as this podcast is going, you are always welcome back. So we'll spend a little bit of time today getting to know our new co-hosts. One of them has already been on the podcast as a guest. He heard the news and said, "Hey, I'd like to help out." Well, I'd prefer someone local, but if you want to call in from time to time, that's perfectly all right too. And and you may have noticed our intro. We went back to our original intro with the Iron Bacon. Folks, it takes a lot of time to isolate those clips to put into the intros. So to save myself the hassle, just going back to basics. And yeah. So I'm really excited about this coming season, and I hope you are as well. We'll try to get some of those interviews that we just hadn't gotten around to, and keep this going. And that's the beauty of this podcast is we can talk to just about anyone about anything, and it'll go on as long as I want it to go on. And I may have said this on the podcast. I don't think I have, but I'm going to say it now anyway. If you ever see an episode titled "She's on the Roof," that means I'm getting ready to wrap it up. So let's take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to go over some stats, and we're going to meet our new co-hosts. So back in a sec. So, of course, if you didn't hear about the strikes that I mentioned in the first parts, a big portion of those strikes is the use of artificial intelligence to write scripts or even replace actors wholesale into films. I don't think that's right, and we will never be allowing AI to write our material here. And I'm going to demonstrate why in a second. I do acknowledge that we use text-to-speech for like some of the intros and outros and stuff, and that's not going to change, although we're taking a break from it this season with me doing the intros and outros this time. Anyways, I did try ChatGPT and first asked it to write a promo for the podcast and then give a script for the podcast. This is what they gave me, and we'll demonstrate why we will never be using AI in the future. Introducing this podcast is Uncalled For. Are you tired of the same old predictable podcasts? Ready to dive headfirst into the unpredictable, the outrageous, and the downright uncalled for? Look no further. Join us on a wild ride like no other as we explore the world of the bizarre, the unusual, and the utterly unexpected. What can you expect? Outrageous stories from bizarre urban legends to unbelievable historical events. We dig deep into the strange and absurd to bring you stories that will leave you speechless. Okay. Unfiltered conversations. No topic is off limits as we engage in candid, unscripted discussions with a diverse range of guests. Get ready for raw, unfiltered conversations that will challenge your perspectives. Okay, you guys there. All right. Exploring the unexplored, we venture into uncharted territory, uncovering hidden gems from around the world. Whether it's a quirky roadside attraction or an underground subculture you never knew existed. Unconventional experts. Meet experts in fields you never even knew existed, from professional dumpster divers to extreme food taste testers. We introduce you to individuals with unique passions and expertise. Okay. Laugh till you drop. Our hosts are on a mission to tickle your funny bone with their witty banter, hilarious anecdotes, and off-the-wall humor. Get ready for some side-splitting moments. Why listen to this podcast is uncalled for? Because life is too short for ordinary podcasts. If you crave adventure, have a thirst for the bizarre, and love to laugh until your side split, this podcast is uncalled for, is your ultimate audio destination. Each episode is a roller coaster ride through the unexpected, a journey that will leave you entertained, enlightened, and utterly bewildered. Don't miss out on the most uncalled for podcasts of the year. Subscribe now and join us on this wild, unpredictable, and hilarious uncalled for adventure. Tune in, buckle up, for this podcast is uncalled for. Does that even sound like me, first of all? And wow, just wow. And that is why I will not let AI write promos for the podcast. And now we're coming to an example why I will not let AI write my scripts. So we script any of this anyway. So welcome everyone to another mind-boggling episode. This podcast is Uncalled For. I'm your host, Mike Chernevsky, and with me, as always, is the one and only host to name. That's right, folks. Buckle up, because today we got a story that's going to toast your brain circuits, and it is literally called The Curious Case of the Time Traveling Toaster, which I believe The Simpsons did once, actually. And they guessed in there, and I'm just going to skip right to the end. And that wraps up another mind-blowing episode of this podcast is Uncalled For. Remember, folks, life is full of surprises, so stay curious, and who knows, maybe your toaster is a time machine too. Until next time, stay uncalled for and keep those toasters toasty. Again, have you been watching The Simpsons ever? Well, first of all, it's animated, and as the old South Park gag goes, Simpsons did it. Simpsons did it. They really did do it with time traveling toasters, having Homer in a Halloween special fix a toaster, and it becomes a time machine, and he keeps going back and screwing up history in the prehistoric era, and it's real funny. If you haven't seen it, you probably someone's gonna inevitably post it on YouTube, so you could check there, I guess. So, and that is why we will not be using AI to write our scripts. So, pleased to welcome back, now as a co-host, one-time guest on the podcast, Jered Feldman. So, Jered, welcome back.
Good to be.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Good to be back.
Yeah.
So how you been?
I'm had better days, you know. Um, for a little context, my car is in the shop 2 days in a row. We're getting some. Yeah, you may need to get off the phone there. I'm getting some feedback.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
The lesson I
Yeah,
learned the
it's not
hard way.
recording or anything.
It's recording on my. Yeah. All right.
Is it still going?
Yeah, it's still going. It's still going. It's still recording again on my end. So, all right. So, yeah, cars in the shop should be
Oh,
out.
okay, okay.
Yeah, cars in the shop should be out tomorrow.
Hmm.
Um, it's been we've had just days of rain up here in KC. So, how's the weather in Springfield?
It just this was the first day it started raining.
Hmm. All right.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be like raining for the next 5 days.
Yeah, that's about what we've been dealing with all week. um, so yeah. So so the agenda then will be you'll be joining me at least once a month on these Zoom calls, and I'll
Definitely.
leave it up to you to see if we can get some guests on the
Ye-
podcast.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had an episode release today with one of our old West buddies,
Nice.
Carl.
Oh, Carl Fletcher.
Yeah, that was a that was a fun one. That was a fun one. So you'll be one of at
I
least
bet.
you'll be one of at least two co-hosts I'll be bringing on. I'm also looking for someone here in the Kansas City area that I can sit down with and talk about stuff. Hopefully, they can bring on some guests too. So I do have a short
Yeah,
list of guests I would love to have on the podcasts. A lot of them are our fellow West guys. So
that's awesome, and it should keep getting bigger.
yeah, yeah. Um, there are a lot of misconceptions that a lot of people, because a lot of my guests have been local filmmakers and actors.
Really.
Um, there's a lot of misconceptions that we're a film podcast because of that. And no, this is like
Um,
a general podcast, but because I'm in that realm, yeah, that lot naturally tends to be who we bring on. So, yeah,
cool.
and
And it seems like we should probably encourage them to be bald like us, right?
right. Of course, mine is bald not by choice but by heredity, uh, and of course, when you came on last time, you told the story of how you came to be bald. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. One group of guests I would
So,
love to get on the podcast. You may have heard this charity, the Big Slick. Uh,
is that a restaurant?
no, the Big Slick. It's a bunch of actors, all from the KC area. They get together like once a year to raise money for Children's Mercy. And well, a couple of names that you may or may not be familiar with, like Paul Rudd and
Paul Rudd, yes.
yeah, Jason Sudeikis is involved with this too. Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah. Ah, nice mic.
That's a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
Sudeikis is hilarious.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I saw it on my yearbooks, and yeah, right there in my freshman yearbook, your sophomore yearbook,
Yep.
on the basketball page. Um, they quote Sudeikis, yes, and then to find out that he based a lot of the Ted Lasso character on Campbell. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense
Yeah. Yeah.
now. It makes so much sense.
Yeah. And once in a while, we'll do a discussion as well on certain topics. Like this past season, when I had a co-host, we did discussions on like gig economy and did our celebrity Mount Rushmores, and uh, well, then he did bring in a couple of guests, um, but for some reason, at least especially that first one that he did, it felt quite one-sided. That I was just a third wheel on my own podcasts. It felt like so.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Mm-mm-mm.
and then he decides to quit because we
Yeah.
talk about sports too much,
Yes.
which I
And
know
are
is
we talking like all sports or?
yeah, pretty much a little bit of all sports. We did a little bit on the NFL draft because I attended the draft, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah. In fact, yeah, let me show you what I wore to the draft. Uh, my bona fides from when I was a Ram fan, 1 or 13.
Oh, really? Nice. Yeah, my wife would love that.
Yeah, yeah. I noticed your wife. Did she become a Ram? Was she a Rams fan in St. Louis and carried on to L.A. or?
All throughout, her dad was a Rams fan when they were in Los Angeles.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So kind of similar. I
and from, I
so kind
think
of
from some of the research I did, the Rams originated in Minnesota, right?
Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio. Yes, because they had Rams up there. Because they're like, yeah, there's no actual Rams animals in California.
No, no, they were originally from Cleveland, and they actually got the name not from any Rams um, in Northeast Ohio, but because the original owner was a Fordham fan, and Fordham's
Oh, really?
yeah,
Interesting how it all just comes together.
mhm,
Because
yeah,
that's what I learned about the Lakers. They were Minnesota Lakers because they had lakes up in Minnesota. And we
Atlanta,
were like, yeah, we don't really have a lot of, yeah.
yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. That's something interesting to me how all these sports teams got their names in the first place. You know, um, like I'll take my current team in football. I've since become an Arizona Cardinals fan. Um,
Really
yeah, uh, because Michael Bidwill was one of the owners that voted against the Rams moving. Um,
good.
so the story with the Cardinals, they were actually in Chicago initially, and are one of the two remaining founding members of the NFL. They're still in existence, along with the Chicago
Oh,
Bears,
wow.
and
Yes.
they were called the Cardinals because of the color of their unis. It was a faded red that they called Cardinal Red, and the name stuck.
That's good. Good that they make a relation to it.
Yeah.
Now, an interesting, like, let's talk about the Washington team.
The Washington Commanders now. Yes. Um,
Yeah.
well, I
The new, what are they, the Senators or something?
no, Commanders, as in
Commanders. That's what it is. Command.
Commanders. Yeah. Of course, yeah, I did a whole episode. Actually, it was a recycled from Winning Sides talking about Native American nicknames. Uh, in the case of the Washington team, well, they were originally from Boston, and this was a time where both the baseball and football team would share the same name. So they were the Boston Braves initially, and then
Oh, wow.
And then a couple of years later, their owner, a guy by the name of George Preston Marshall, changed the name to Redskins and stuck until, just a few years ago,
Yeah.
where they were finally forced to drop it. They called themselves the Washington football team for a couple of years. Uh, and this is their second year as the Commanders. I personally like the name. Uh, and it's appropriate considering DC's role in our country. Uh,
Yes, totally.
yeah.
Now, I think it would be kind of cool if they came out with another sports team and they call them the Baldies, because almost all athletes are almost all bald, and
Almost,
you can't take offense to that because it's true,
almost, yeah. We're living proof, yeah. Man,
and we could be presidents of the team because we're bald.
right, right, right. Um, let's see what's another good. Oh yeah, the other original NFL team still exists is the Chicago Bears. So they were originally in Decatur, Illinois, their first year, and they were called the Staleys for the company that was sponsoring them. Then they moved to Chicago 1 year later, and then the year after that, they changed the name to the Bears because they were playing at Wrigley Field, and uh, football players are generally bigger than baseball players. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And
And are they going to be doing any more expanding on teams for like the NFL or the baseball or basketball even?
I've well with basketball, I've heard they could be expanding very soon by two. One would be a return of the Seattle Supersonics.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the other would be in Las Vegas, from what I've heard. And Vegas
Nice.
could very,
Sean,
yeah, Vegas could very well begin baseball here soon too. With um, our city's former team, the A's, possibly moving there.
oh, really?
Yeah,
The Athletics?
yep.
Good.
Yeah, so Vegas would be a four sport city. Yep. Um, I'm I'm trying to keep tabs on this whole XFL USFL merger because I've become a big Bowhawks fan with the XFL,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
yeah, it looks uh, yeah. So for context, for anyone who's listening, because we haven't brought this up on the podcast yet, the XFL and the USFL um, agreed to merge. They're talking possibly the 2024 season. So just about the time this will release, we should hopefully be seeing more spring football. And it makes sense to keep the Battlehawks because as a consequence
Yeah.
of being screwed out of the NFL, um, yeah, Battlehawks attendance has been through the roof. Literally,
Yeah.
literally. Yeah.
Do you think it's also a good sign? Because yeah, I guess they're getting the Canadian Football League going again,
I think it's already been
and
with the Canadian Football League.
it's, it is going. So that means that's going to give room to American football teams to start and expanding. They might need 4 or 6 more teams because they can use the new players from the Canadian Football League, kind of like how Warner came from.
Yeah, yeah. With Warner, it was the Arena League. They went to NFL Europe, and
That's right.
with the Rams, yeah. So yeah. Did I tell you I actually met Kurt Warner once?
No way.
Yeah, just right after that Super Bowl, there was a collectors show here at the old OP Trade Center. Warner was there signing autographs. Kevin Carter was there, and Isaac Bruce was there. And I got to meet
Really, that is awesome.
all three of them. In order of most enthusiastic, at least I'd say Carter, then Warner, then Bruce. Unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
Warner was interesting because the guy right in front of me in line, he had just got his stuff signed by Kurt. He dropped his stuff on the floor. I picked up to help the guy out, and Kurt's already signing the photo I had him sign. And but oh, thanks, Kurt, and got to shake the man's hand. And then,
Wow.
and then a year before that,
I,
a year before that, same show, got to meet Eric Dickerson, who was the reason I became a Ram fan.
oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, and this was just before he was getting into Canton, too. So doubly cool. And then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and James Worthy, I met at that same show too. So was not
wow.
Kareem, but Worthy was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it true that Worthy did he play with Jordan in college?
I probably wouldn't know. I think he was a Carolina guy, but I don't think they overlapped. I could be wrong.
I think he was a senior when Jordan was a freshman.
Similar to the me and Sudeikis situation at West, because he was a senior during my freshman year, and I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
And nice little sidetrack. James Worthy, the only Star Trek actor I've actually met in person. He played.
Worthy was on Star Trek?
He played a Klingon in one episode of Next Generation.
Oh, that is awesome.
Didn't have many lines, but yeah, he played a Klingon. So, yeah.
Oh, that is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder if there's been any, because I always wonder who makes better actors, NFL players, basketball players, or baseball players?
Ooh, great question. Great question because Jim Brown, who recently passed, great football player, pretty good actor. Fred the Hammer.
Really? He was an actor?
Yeah. Jim Brown was an actor.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fred the Hammer Williamson also comes to mind, the football player turned actor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. Basketball. I can't think of any basketball.
You have to admit, Tom Brady's being a good actor on all the commercials that he does.
Oh, yeah, Tom Brady. Yeah, Tom Brady actually played himself on Family Guy. So,
are you serious?
I'm serious.
Have you seen that new movie about Brady? It's like with those four ladies.
Oh, no, I haven't. So.
I've got no interest to see it.
I have been seeing all the new Star Trek and all South Park, of course. So you might see right here. I didn't actually meet them in person, but there's a really great podcast you should check out called The Well. Is co-hosted by Anson Mounts, who's the actor who plays. He's the actor who plays Captain Pike in the current iterations of Trek, and that's his autograph right there, and his buddy Brandon. So definitely check that podcast out. There's at least one sports themed episode of that. They interviewed June Jones.
Mm-hmm. So I was thinking it's interesting talking about Klingons and everything. Like, which generations of the Star Trek series do you think was really good in order? I know the James T. Kirk episodes, they were corny.
Yeah.
The movies were far better.
Yeah, agreed. A lot of that has to do with budgets too. Some of the recurrent series are pretty good too. Like I mentioned,
Really?
Strange New Worlds just now, so I definitely suggest that one. Although there is one episode I would probably skip. Uh,
Oh,
a kid's being tortured. That's my that's my recommendation there. I love Lower Decks, which is
hmm.
which is the animated series. It's really funny and uh, really referential to past Trek.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah. Uh, let's see. Voyager. That's one that's uh, gets a lot um, gets a lot of hate from some people, but is on the flip side the most downloaded in terms of streaming. So, I do recommend a few episodes of that. And uh,
Mm,
yeah, um, with me, anything but the JJ movies. You can skip those.
really.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, yeah.
I wonder how the Star Wars universe is going.
So I know they made 9 movies and they did a whole bunch of spinoffs. I'm not really as big a Star Wars guy, but which is funny because I did see episode one like 7 or 8 times in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, uh,
I remember when that came out. I went to I think the original Glenwood on Metcalf. I think it was on Metcalf to
uh,
go see it.
yeah, the Glen. Okay, yeah, where they it's been torn down and is currently I think a
Yep.
Italian buffet and used to be a Whole Foods. They just repurposed it as a clinical trials lab. Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah. But I think the Glenwood's name still carries on. They just moved it to Ranch Marts on 95th in Leewood.
Hmm. So I wonder if it's sort of like a scientific experiment on the people who ate the Whole Foods. Now they're the clinical trials patients.
The Whole Foods, to my knowledge, that Whole Foods moved to the UMKC campus.
Really, it did.
Yeah, yeah.
So there'll be an epidemic going on there.
Hey, I'm a Roo, so yeah. But yeah, they built a Whole Foods and some luxury apartments right where a parking lot used to be when I was attending UMKC. Uh, right across the street from where the southern terminus of the streetcar extension is going to be built. So,
Really?
yeah.
That's been going for a while, right?
Let's see. This extension they started building a little over a year ago. Um, they're more than halfway done with laying track, and it should be open by 25.
Oh,
And this is the part running from Union Station down to UMKC. So it hits Westport, it'll hit the Plaza, uh, at different parts of Midtown.
yeah. That sounds like it's going to be impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's going to be a online meeting in a couple of weeks that I plan on sitting in on where uh, they're talking about this stops along the east-west extension, which will overlap with this a little bit. So if you're driving down Main Street right now, there are currently gaps at 39th Street and Linwood Boulevard, specifically for this east-west thing.
Wow.
So go from Main Street west on 39th to KU Med. and then on Linwood, it'd go east all the way to the bus station currently sitting at Van Brunt, and it would service the VA hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, great times to be Kansas City, and especially in terms of transit and all the other stuff that's been happening around here lately. I talked about the draft earlier. Got this,
Hmm.
got the World Cup coming in a couple of years. They're talking about transit projects there. Got the airports that just opened a new terminal.
Wow.
Yeah. I've only seen like the passenger pickup side of things because I haven't flown since 2008.
Hmm.
Uh, but uh, but yeah, good setup. And well, that's and of course checks notes, entertainment news. Recently, one of the Chiefs players is dating a certain pop singer. So,
Yes, yes.
mhm.
It's on every game. They show more about those two than they do the actual game.
Yeah,
That's what it feels. That's what it feels like.
yeah, yeah. And I found out a couple weeks ago one of my chess coworkers is neighbors with Mr. Kelsey. So
Really.
yeah, and he tells me yeah, there are vans and stuff in the neighborhood. People are they asking the neighbors to show ID and like, dude, we live here. And that sort of thing. so, so, yeah, that's an interesting way to get put on the map. And then uh, I came across his podcast as well. So
Hmm.
Travis Kelsey, if you are somehow listening to this, I run the Kansas City Podcasters Meetup. You're more than welcome to stop by at some point
Yes.
and impart some knowledge. You're welcome on this podcast to talk about podcasting. And
Hmm.
yeah, I promise we won't talk about your lady friend at all, but
Okay.
because I
So
mean,
where does that meet up meet at?
it varies. It varies. This month it'll be on Zoom because I'm busy with chess clubs and stuff. We've done it at the library. We've done it at Panera, and so it's going to vary from month to month. I I try to do at least once a month, and whether or not people actually show up, that's a different story. So,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I can only put the word out, and everything else that's on it's on you. Just RSVP. You plan on showing up, show up. Simple as that.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, people miss out on a lot of fun when they don't show up.
Mm-hmm. Although to be honest, lately it's been a lot of answering questions about people wanting to get into podcasting. So how do I start a podcast again? I, yeah, I
How
feel.
old were you? How old were you for your first podcast?
Let's see, my first podcast was 11 years ago. I'm 45 now, so doing the math, I would have been uh,
35 ish.
yeah, 33 ish. It started in 2012.
Wow.
2012 was my first podcast, and then
Crazy.
yep. All right, so we do have a few minutes remaining because I am a cheapskate and do not want to upgrade from the from this basic Zoom. All right, but we will do this like at least once a month.
Yeah,
Uh, Probably that last Friday would probably be the best time to do it, and yeah, I'm gonna leave it up to you to wrangle some guests for us, and
definitely.
the seasons go 14 episodes. No, not 14. 18 episodes minimum. Um, so I've been on the go a little longer, and I can send you a list of guests I want to bring on,
Yes.
and I'll do that as soon as we're done here.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of West guys on that list. So a lot of guys we both grew up with. Uh, I mentioned Carl. Or
Yes.
I had Sewell on before I had you on, and I've had Plachek on.
Yeah, Flashback. Yep.
Yeah, Jeff Plachek. Yes, uh, whom I've known probably the longest of everyone. I've known him since we were 8. Yeah, we were in elementary school, and oh, that was a fun discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of that particular band, shortly after that interview was recorded, I was doing a chess club in Lenexa, uh, Lenexa
Mhm.
Parks and Rec. Let's give them some props. And one of the students was Brian Cheston's son.
Really?
Really?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Um, it's good to see Brian. It's good to see Brian.
Yeah.
He's usually like can drop it off and pick him up. So
Hmm. Yeah, music and old West grads would be another good topic sometime.
oh heck yeah.
Thulium, you remember Thulium?
Lillian, yeah, which became anything but Joey and featured Mr. Palachek and uh,
Yep.
and and still another guy that was in Campbell's class with us, one Mac Roby.
Yes, Groby, yes.
Yeah. All right, so it's great to bring Jered back on the podcast, this time as a co-host. We will be introducing our second new co-host later in this episode. But first, I want to address, unfortunately, another passing. This one was someone who was asked to be on the podcast, and unfortunately, we never got around to getting him on. So, thank you to KSHB Channel 41 for reporting on this. Dated October 31st, 2023, so Halloween. The Kansas City, Missouri Fire Department said one person died in a house fire Tuesday morning in the 5100 block of Brooklyn Avenue. Emergency crews were called to the scene shortly after 4 a.m. and witnessed smoke and fire from the house. As crews entered, they encountered heavy fire on both floors of the home. Firefighters then backed out of the home for a time and fought it defensively until they could knock down the flames. Then they re-entered to snuff it out, and they sprayed water on the house next door to prevent flames from spreading. KCFD initially reported that no injuries were suffered in the house fire, but later updating that one victim, an adult male, was found dead inside the residence. The department said the victim was around 40 years old, and an investigation to determine the cause of the fire is underway. The victim, his name was Rajesh Krishnankutty, one of the coolest dudes I know, and that was a reason I invited him a number of times to do the podcast. In fact, the very last time I ever saw him was to invite him on the podcast. He was really Indian gentleman, as you could probably tell from the name. Really cool guy. I actually first met him through politics. He was involved with the Young Democrats. Really cool guy. then, and had mentioned for just being a really cool dude. He even attended a naturist event one time. Friend of the podcast, Ty Gebhardt, drove me and two others. One of them was Rajesh to a bowling alley for naked bowling. I don't bowl myself, but came along just because it was going to be a fun time. But Rajesh did participate, to his credit, and never told anyone about that until now. So, and yeah, the last time I saw him was actually at a singles event, so trying to get more involved in the singles scene. I remember it was ridiculously loud, and Rajesh was actually one of the guys performing that night. Well, we can't have him on the podcast, unfortunately, because it's kind of hard to have someone on the podcast after they've passed away. So, once again, we memorialize my friend, and whatever you encounter in the afterlife, Godspeed. So unfortunately, I don't have any material with our second new co-host yet, but I can tell you that we do have a second co-host, a more local guy for me to work with. And I'll be open to adding more. We'll see how everything goes, but his name is Brett Zeller, and he will, like Jered, be joining us from time to time whenever schedules permit, and he too has been tasked with finding appropriate guests for the podcast. Not to say I'm absolving myself from that entirely, because I'm not, because there are still people I really want to get on the podcast and I really, really want to talk to, and I'm the guy to do it. And I'll go and leave a couple of recommendations for your listening pleasure. One's podcast, one that I kind of alluded to already that I've started listening to a little bit recently. It's called New Heights, co-hosted by Jason and Travis Kelce. Yes, the same Travis Kelce plays for our local NFL team and started dating a certain pop star, and his brother Jason plays center for the Philadelphia Eagles. They do a weekly podcast that's is mostly centered around football, because I mean they're both professional football players, but once in a while they'll talk about other stuff, like getting into an animated discussion on in response to a question of how many holes does a straw have, and gets into a discussion of how many is a hot dog a sandwich, and parenthetically it is. So and you should also hear Jason's description of Twilight, despite him stating for the record that there's a team this movie shouldn't exist. And I maintain that Twilight is good snapshots of the stereotypical LDS family dynamic. So do check out the New Heights podcast. Music-wise, as you all know, I'm a huge Trekkie, and Strange New Worlds has been a show that I've been watching a lot. Like I said, there's one episode you can just flat out skip because a child is being tortured to death. But these are clearly very talented individuals. You heard me talking about Anson Mount's podcasts before, and I'm still going to recommend that. I'm also going to recommend the music of another cast member. Her name is Christina Chong, and this past year she's been exploring music, and it's a really, really good stuff. She did sell physical CDs, and full disclosure, I bought a physical CD. I said the music's really good. Unfortunately, I don't think she's selling any more of the physical copies, but you can find her music on Spotify and wherever you get your music and podcasts. All that, so do check it out. I highly recommend the song No Blame. Probably her best of the bunch. Although the music video for Can't Show Love was pretty fun. Mostly home videos, so check that out too. But let's go and wrap up this episode, and happy to tell you that this podcast is Uncalled For is hosted, produced, and edited by yours truly, Mike Chernevsky. The opening music is Iron Bacon by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution License. Our outro music for today is 2010 Pop by Akira Sora. You can find this at freemusicarchive.org, and this is licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 International License. And special shout outs to our co-host Jered Feldman for appearing on today's episode.
If you are in the United States or Canada, you can call us at 816-832-5160. Leave your message or question for us, and if we like it, we will play it on the podcast. Please support the podcast and purchase our exclusive Uncalled For merchandise. T-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, stickers, and so much more. Go to www.cafepress.com/uncalledforpod. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.